All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to give you an update as Gervonta Davis is being offered, or at least word from Top Rank is that they are open to several fights with Gervonta Davis. This could come before, instead of, or after the Montroach fight, and it includes people like Keshawn Davis. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we've got good news as there's more and more action and appears going on between two of the biggest boxing outfits in the world. Premier boxing champions and Top Rank had been rumored to be, entering into an agreement with one another and working together and putting on more fights. And Carl Moretti, who was with Top Rank, gave an interview and gave more details on it, and basically said that there are several fights that these guys are working on. And it includes Lomachenko. He mentioned the names Lomachenko. He mentioned the name Gervonta Davis. He mentioned Keshawn Davis. Even went off and talked about some fights like Xander Zayas versus Sebastian Fundora. But for the sake of this video, we're going to stay in the 135-pound division. But before I do that, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And thank you guys so much again for being big supporters of the channel. The super thanks below is a great way to support the channel. And thank you guys to everybody that did that. But let's get into the discussion because I love this. I really do. This is like a moment in my life as a boxing fan. Having been a fan of Top Rank, watched Top Rank boxing my entire life, was a big fan of Don King. And if you recall, and not a lot of people talk about it, Don King and Bob Arum worked together very, very well. They had fighters on the same cards. They partnered together on cards, made some of the best events in the history of boxing together, right? Now, they competed for fighters, right, back and forth, but whatever. During the time when I was growing up, those were the two major promoters. They were Bob Arum and it was Don King, and we wound up getting a lot of fights because of it. However, the relationship was significantly more rocky between Al Heyman and Bob Arum, because when Al Heyman came into boxing, Don King was kind of slowly going out of it, and the relationship was not the same between Al Heyman and Bob Arum. At points in time, Bob Arum was joking about does the guy even exist, right? Even though he had made fights with him in the past, but there was clearly an adversarial relationship, and that over time, I believe, started really preventing a lot of great fights from getting made because the Top Rank siloed itself over here. The PBC was siloed over here. You had Golden Boy was siloed over there. Golden Boy would work with Top Rank, but Golden Boy wouldn't work with PBC after what happened with Oscar De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather. So, there's been a lot of slowness in the sport of boxing as far as making really, really great fights. Well, Turki Al-Sheikh comes in and starts throwing money around and is pretty much throwing both Top Rank and the PBC out of kilter, but specifically Top Rank out of kilter, as they are not willing to turn over their matchmaking to Turki Al-Sheikh. So they started kind of like a little battle there. Now it seems as if the two, and this is the important part, the two are working together to help save American boxing, because Turki Al-Sheikh and Saudi Arabian money was going to try to come in and flip the whole thing over. So now you have these guys talking about fighting with one another or making cards with one another for their mutual survival. And I have to tell you, I love it a lot. Now, as far as what Gervonta Davis was mentioned, Lomachenko, Carl Moretti said again, we're waiting to find out what's going on with Lomachenko. We have not heard from Lomachenko. We'll probably know what's going on with Lomachenko the same time you find out with Lomachenko's, but the fight with him, Gervonta Davis, is already something that we're willing to do. He also said that he would be willing to have Keshawn Davis and Gervonta Davis, Keshawn Davis and Lomachenko, and talked about the fact that they were making a card together with the PBC now to try to get a title shot for Xander Zayas against Sebastian Fundora. Man, that terrific fight, but that also just means that these guys are able to open up and are willing to start making fights where their fighter may lose. So, for example, Xander Zayas is an up-and-coming 154-pounder, young guy. He can't be much older than 22. Can't be much older than 22 years old now. But to put him in position to get a shot with Fundora, and Fundora, I'm telling you, is going to be the odds-on favorite to beat Xander Zayas. Usually, the top rank would not give you a fighter, wouldn't give somebody a fighter unless they were like 90% sure their fighter would win. That's not going to be the case with Xander Zayas. And I think also that they're going to be a much more pressed to do it because Top Rank is going to be, losing their ESPN contract. But that brings me to Gervonta and the fact that that opens up so many very, very good fights for Gervonta Davis. Gervonta and Keshawn Davis, Gervonta Davis and Lomachenko, if Lomachenko wants to do it. You have Abdullah Mason over there. I do believe they even got Raymond Ford moving up from 130. There should be a lot of opportunities for Gervonta Davis. The one that I want to see him get is I want to see him get the fight with Keshawn Davis. Keshawn Davis, though, in my opinion, has somebody else that he should be looking at, and that guy's name is Andy Cruz. Andy Cruz, I do believe, is currently like number 2 or number 3 for the IBF, and pretty much only thing that people are waiting on is to find out what's going on with Lomachenko. If Lomachenko is not going to come back, and he's not going to come back sometime soon, the IBF is eventually going to strip him of that title, and when the IBF strips him of that title, then Andy Cruz is going to be in an excellent position to fight for it. If Andy Cruz gets up there, then you got Andy Cruz, Keshawn. Those two can get that on. Gervonta Davis versus Shakur Stevenson. Because Keshawn Davis and Shakur Stevenson said that they weren't going to fight each other. But that lining the fights up like that allows it to happen. Even if you had Andy Cruz versus, you had Gervonta Davis versus Keshawn, and you had Andy Cruz versus Shakur Stevenson. I personally would love to see Andy Cruz versus Keshawn Davis and let the winner of that fight Shakur Stevenson, and then Shakur Stevenson fights Gervonta. The winner of the Shakur Stevenson, Keshawn Davis, whatever, would fight Gervonta. But we know Shakur doesn't want to fight his friend. Keshawn doesn't want to fight his friend, so I think that's going to be a significantly harder to do that particular way. But whatever we do, whatever happens, just having the conversations and being able to say, oh man, this is a realistic fight to make. Oh, Gervonta and Keshawn, that's a realistic fight to make. Do you realize 2 years ago it would be like no way that fight can happen because that guy's Top Rank. There's no way that'll happen. Now it's actually something reasonable that can happen. I guess you do to a certain extent have to credit Turki Al-Sheikh and his blundering ways for that, because he tried to force his money was forcing people to do this stuff, and now you see cards like what's taking place with what's the fight card? They had a very, very good fight card coming up here with Shakur Stevenson being on the undercard of Edgar Berlanga and Shiraz, but still you have Puello on that undercard fighting. Who is Alberto Puello is fighting Sabril Matias. Those are a bunch of PBC fighters on that DAZN card. So, hey man, it looks like people are starting to mix significantly better than they used to. Anyway, that's just my take on the system. On the situation. I was encouraged by the conversation with David Moretti, with Carl Moretti of Top Rank. Please let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.